Hey everyone, I have that it's about 10 o'clock, so don't want to keep anyone waiting. Want to use our time wisely this morning, so I'll go ahead and start the webinar. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Freddie Wright. I'm Senior Digital Director at Wheeler Digital. Just wanted to thank you for joining us for our latest webinar today on Google Analytics 4. As Leslie shared a second ago, you should be able to see the screen right now that says Google Analytics 4 and UTM codes. If you're having any issue with that, feel free to send us a chat in the chat box. Real quick, we have a lot of current client partners on the call with us today and a lot of new partners as well. We're looking forward to working with everybody soon. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for taking time out of your day to come. This webinar is also being recorded so that we can share it out with others who can't be with us this morning. We'll post it on our website at wheelerdigital.com a little later today, and we'll also send each of you the link so that as you're working through the things that Leslie will talk about, you can come back to this webinar and back to any information that you may need to hear again as you're getting your new Google Analytics 4 set up. With that being said, our presenter today is Leslie Schumacher. She's a digital expert and she's the founder of our Wheeler Digital Technology Partner. She always makes everything digital easy to understand. And we thought there's no better person to clear up any confusion about all of those countdown emails that you are probably getting in your inbox from Google in regards to the Google Analytics on your website, the current Google Analytics that's going away on July 1st. I think Google's got a little bit of a scare tactic going on, so we want to clear up what's going on with that. With that, I'll hand everything over to Leslie to give us all the insights on the brand new Google Analytics 4.
Okay, thanks, Freddie. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with Google Analytics 4, and we'll also talk a little bit UTM codes as well. Just for good measure, we'll throw those in too. We do have a chat function. I am going to ask you if you could to hold off on your questions till we get to the end, only because I'm not coordinated enough to manage the chat function and type and talk at the same time. So I promise I'll open it up for questions at the end. So just jot down your questions and hold on to those until we get it to the end of the webinar, and then I'll open it up and you can ask me those questions when we get to the end. So are you ready for Universal Analytics to come to the end of its life cycle? It is being sunsetted at the end of this month. And on July 1st, Google Analytics 4 begins its official ascent. So there is a new game in town, Google Analytics 4, and as Freddie mentioned, you're probably getting those countdown emails sent to you by Google Analytics saying that as of July 1st, your current Google Analytics will stop processing. It'll stop taking hits, and you have to have Google Analytics 4 set up to process data if you want to use Google Analytics. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is Google Analytics 4? So it is an entirely new tool that is completely different from the current version of Google Analytics, which is called Universal Google Analytics. It has different tracking metrics and different looking reports. You cannot migrate data from your existing Google Analytics over to Google Analytics 4. They are completely different platforms. So there is new tracking code that you have to put on your website in order for Google Analytics 4 to begin processing data. So what Google wants you to do is have dual Google Analytics accounts. It wants you to keep your Google Analytics Universal, which is what you currently have, and that will then stop working at the end of this month. And then it wants you to install Google Analytics 4 and use that going forward. So all new websites will automatically, when you load the tracking code, use Google Analytics 4. So let's look at what are the biggest differences between Google Analytics Universal, the existing one, and Google Analytics 4. So if you boil it down to its simplest form, the biggest difference is that Universal Analytics, the current one, is page view driven, and Google Analytics 4 is event driven. So it calls everything events, where Universal Analytics tracks everything by number of page views. So events are tracked automatically in Google Analytics 4 without any additional coding required, which is kind of cool. So for example, things that Google Analytics 4 will automatically track without you having to additionally code things on your website are things like the first time someone visits your website, the page that a user is viewing, when the user session started. User engagement is collected when someone has spent at least 10 seconds on your website. It'll also track what's called enhanced measurement. And that lets you track things like scrolling, when someone scrolls at least 90% of a page. It'll track things like when they click on outbound links from your website to another website. It'll track things like when they search for things in your search function on your website. It'll also track engagement of people watching, if you have YouTube videos embedded in your website. It'll track file downloads from people downloading files from your website. So these are things that will automatically now be tracked. So if you want to become a Google Analytics 4 wizard, there is a class that you can take for free to become certified in Google Analytics 4, because what I'm going to show you today is going to certainly help you, and we'll show you some of the basic reports that you can pull for Google Analytics 4. But if you want to go deeper, you certainly can do that. I've posted here a bit.ly link that will take you to the Google Analytics 4 page of where you can take an online course. So if you're interested in doing that, you can screenshot that link there and it'll take you to that Google Analytics 4 class. It's self-paced, so you can take it at your leisure and kind of go through it at your own pace. Now, once you download Google Analytics 4 onto your website, and how you do that, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We can help you with that. Wheeler can help you with downloading Google Analytics 4 onto your website. And once that tracking code is on your website and is active, and you log into it, you're going to get a dashboard that looks like this. Now, there are hundreds of ways to configure this dashboard page. Google will suggest what 4 metrics to look at. So I've picked the 4 that are the most common that they suggest to look at. So first one is users. So it's going to show you users. What does that mean? Well, that means how many unique device IDs have been on your website in the defined period that you're looking at. And in this case, we're looking at the last 30 days. So what this is showing for this website is there were 4,100 users in the last 30 days. Now you can change that to look at the last week, the last 6 months, the last year, even just today if you wanted to look at that. And you can compare it to look at it versus this week versus last week, or this month versus last month. And that's what you're seeing right here. Then it's going to show you, in this case, it's showing engaged sessions per user. What does that mean? Well, Google Analytics counts a session as engaged if the user session lasts longer than 10 seconds. So if somebody just hits your page and immediately bounces out, that doesn't count as engaged. Google Analytics figures, oh, they didn't mean to come here. That was an accident. So they have to be on your page for at least 10 seconds, or they have to have done at least one conversion, meaning they have to have done something on your site. Click something, some kind of conversion, some next step. Or they have to have viewed 2 or more pages. If they do one of these 3 things, that counts as engaged. So this says 0.91. So is that good? Is that bad? It's kind of hard to know if that's a good benchmark or not. So what I like to do is, see this little down arrow? I click on this and I change that to a percentage. And you can change that to show you an engagement rate. Now it's a percentage. 68.3% of these users are engaged. Okay, is that good? Is that bad? Well, there are some benchmarks now that you can look at. So engagement rate shows the percentage of engaged sessions. Now in Universal Analytics, the current version of analytics, it used to show what was called a bounce rate. A bounce rate showed the percentage of sessions that weren't engaged. So bounce rate was just the inverse of engagement rate. So now there are benchmarks for, well, what is a good engagement rate? So rates above 63% if you're a B2B website, or above 71% for a business-to-consumer website are considered really good, according to this benchmark study that was done. Orbit Media did a benchmark study and found that 55% was a good average. So, you can kind of use that as a benchmark. You could screenshot this. This was another average engagement rate that was done, and it looked at different websites broken out by different verticals. So it does vary by industry. So that just kind of gives you sort of a rule of thumb for, is your engagement rate good or not? So basically, if you're in the 50s or above, that's pretty average. Now, engagement rate is important because when looking at your search engine optimization, that is one of the things that Google factors in to its search algorithm. So the higher your engagement rate, the better your SEO ranking is going to be. Now, it's certainly not the only thing that's going to impact your SEO ranking, but it is one of the factors. So the more engaged your users are on your website, the better. All right, next thing that you're going to see on your dashboard could be event count. Now, Google Analytics counts an event as some kind of engagement with your site, meaning that the person who comes to your site does something when they get there. That could mean they view multiple pages, they scroll down to the bottom of the page, they click on a link, they type something into your search bar, they view a video, they download a file, they click on a button, they fill out a form, they do something. Any of those things are considered an event. They're engaging with your website. Those get counted as events. The next thing is views per user. So Google Analytics counts views per user as the total number of page views divided by the total number of users. And users viewing the same page multiple times will count as multiple views. So you want this number to be the higher the better. So views per user in this case means the average user does 2.4 views per user. So the higher the better here. All right, next up. You see down here where it says View Report Snapshot. So this is just your initial dashboard. Now you can go in, click here, and see some reports. If you click this, it's going to open up a screen that looks like this. Now, this may look a little overwhelming at first, but it's really not. It's an overview of reports that Google thinks you might be interested in. So let's break this down. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these. I'm just going to show you the ones that I think you'll find most interesting. So the first thing is you can change the date to look at anything you want. You could look at the last month, the last 6 months, the last year, whatever you're interested in looking at. So we're looking at the last month. It's going to show us how many users, how many of those were new users. Then it's going to show the average engagement time, meaning of those users, how much time did they spend on the website? So in the last month, the average user for this website spent 26 seconds on the website. Total revenue would only be counted if that was something that was set up, if this was an e-commerce website. Users in the last 30 minutes, this is a real-time thing that you can look at if you wanted to see who's using it right this moment. Now this box shows you new users. So what that means is these are how new people who came to your website found you. What channel, meaning what first brought them to your website. So you can see for this website, most people found this website through organic search, through a search engine, through Google, through Bing or Yahoo. So what these mean, organic search means a website, or excuse me, a search engine. Direct means either that a visitor typed in the website's URL directly into their browser. But another thing to remember that's important is that Google Analytics uses direct as a dumping ground for mobile app traffic when it can't categorize the traffic. So anything coming from a mobile app where it doesn't know the mobile app, where the mobile app has stripped out the name of it, which is a lot of times what mobile apps do, Google Analytics can't categorize it, so it'll just dump it into direct. And this happens a lot because mobile apps don't usually pass along tracking information, so it just dumps it in here. Referral traffic is traffic that comes from another website. So if you're doing a paid campaign, let's say you're doing a campaign with Wheeler, a digital campaign, that traffic could be coming through here, and you'll see it in referral. Organic social would be a visitor that came from a social platform like a Facebook post or an Instagram post. Paid search would be if you were doing a paid, let's say, Google pay-per-click campaign. Organic shopping would be if you were doing something, let's say you came from eBay or maybe Pinterest or Amazon. Email would be you came from an email link. Next up, this looks very similar. It's a little bit different though. This is showing where all your traffic came from, not just new users. So again, organic search, direct, referral, organic social, paid search, organic shopping, and email. But this is all your traffic, not just new users. Next up, it will show you where your users came by country, but I'll show you, you can also filter this to show it by city and a number of different ways. You can filter it to show you other things like gender and interests, and I'll show you that in just a moment. How are active users trending? So this shows you user activity over time. So you can see over 30 days how your users are trending, over 7 days, over just today. So this shows you overall, are your users trending up? Are they stable? Are they going down? And you can see for this particular website, it's pretty stable. Next up is how well do you retain your users? Now this may or may not be important to you depending on the type of business you are. You may be the type of business where you don't necessarily need people coming back to your website time and time again. But if you are, then this might be important to you to see, do people continue to come back to you, or are you a one and done kind of website? So this will show you when they first come, do they come back first week, the second week, the third week, the fourth week, the fifth week, and so on. Next up, and one of the ones that I think is most interesting, is which pages get the most views. What this is showing you is of the pages on your website, which gets the most interaction, the most engagement, the most views? And it will list them in order. So you can see, in this case, for this website, it's which blog pages are getting the most interaction. Next up is, what are your top events? Remember that in Google Analytics 4, it tracks any interaction as an event. A page view is an event. Starting a session is an event. A click on a button is an event. You can also set custom events, things that you want to track, not just the default things that Google Analytics 4 tracks. You can track top conversions. So if there are certain conversions that you want to track, that's something that you can go in and set. If you want to track things like form fill-outs, you can tell it, I want to track this particular conversion. Now I want to go in and show you that you can expand on some of these report snapshots that you see here. So for example, if I wanted to come up here to this new user where I wanted to see more about where am I finding with these new users, where are they coming from? You can see here where it says View User Acquisition Report. If you click on that, it will open up the full report for you. So now you can see the full report. It lists all the different channels where your new users are coming from, and it will show you the engagement rate. It shows you engaged sessions, engagement rate, engaged sessions per user, average engagement time that each channel is providing. So you can see here that organic search has a much higher engagement rate than, say, direct. Organic shopping has the highest engagement rate. If we go back to our dashboard report and we go back to this one, users by country, if we click on this to expand this report, this was the one that I was showing you. If you expand the report and you click here where it says show it by country, click on this little down arrow. You can view it by country, region, you could view it by city, you could view it by age, by gender. But one of the most interesting things that I think you can view it by is interest. If you click on interest, it's going to show you what your users are interested in, meaning what other types of websites do your users go to? And the reason I think this is really interesting information is if you're doing digital advertising campaigns, you should look at this because these are behavioral categories that you could be targeting with your digital advertising. So for this website, their users are interested in technology. They're interested in media and entertainment. They're interested in food and dining, and they're cooking enthusiasts. Those are all behavioral targeting categories that they could be targeting with their digital ads. So this is some great insight into what are your users, the people coming to your website, what are they interested in? So again, that's found under users. by country. If you want to look a little deeper into what pages and screens get the most views, click here. It'll open up that page. And again, it will list all the pages that are getting the most interaction. And then I look at average engagement time, and then you can see what pages are getting the most time spent on them. You see it, they're all listed right here. So that gives you an idea of what pages your users are spending the most time with. And you want to create more pages like that. For your events, if you want to see what events are getting the most engagement, same thing. Just click on View Events. It'll open up that page, and it'll list all the events. And if you're not sure what these events mean, you can click on them, and it'll open up that event and show you what it is. All right, let's talk a little bit about UTM codes and how they interact with Google Analytics. So a UTM code is a little snippet of code that gets attached to a click-through landing page URL that allows you to track in your Google Analytics when someone clicks on your digital ad and comes to your website. So if you were running a digital ad campaign with Wheeler and you wanted to track that engagement in your Google Analytics, you could do that. So a UTM code tells you how much website traffic is coming from a specific digital ad campaign, how much of that traffic is new versus repeat visitors. It'll tell you the average length of time the user spends on your website, the average number of pages those users view, could tell you which ad creative is performing better if you're using multiple ads. So how does it work? So when you are running an ad campaign, a digital ad campaign, you're going to decide what page of your website you want people to land on when they click your ad. So let's say you decide, okay, I want them to land on my services page. So you would say to Wheeler, okay, I want them to land on my services page. So that URL is www.client.com/services. Great. So we would put that into the platform, the ad platform, and when someone clicks on your ad, they would land on client.com/services. But if you wanted to track that in your Google Analytics 4, you would need to add a UTM code to the end of this URL. And that UTM code would look something like this. You would add this to the end of that URL. So this would be the name of the digital group you're using. Then you would put a source on it, which would be, you know, the display ad or whatever you're running. But you also can do this with things like blog posts. You can do it with emails you send out. any kind of clickable traffic that you're using, and then you give it a name so that you can track it. So how do you create these? Well, Google has a very handy-dandy little tool. You can just go to Google and type into Google URL Builder, and it'll call it up. You just click on this, and it's so simple to use. This is what it looks like. And you would just type in the click-through landing page for the ad that you're running. Where do you want to land the person on your website? So let's say you want to land them on your services page. You would just type in the URL of your website, /services or /contact us or whatever, wherever you want to land them. Then you would enter the digital group you're using. Hopefully that would be Wheeler Digital. Then you're going to type in whatever it is you're doing. Maybe that's you're using display ads or native ads or video. Or if you were doing this for an email campaign, you'd type in email. Or if you wanted to track a blog, you could type in blog. Then you're going to type in the name of the promotional campaign. So let's say this was for a winter sale that you were running, or a Father's Day promotion, whatever it is, just so that you can identify it. Then Google will put together, it'll generate the URL that you need to use so that Google Analytics can read it. So see how now it's put together a new URL code. That's a UTM code right here. And that's what you would give to Wheeler to use as the click-through URL. So now when you go into your Google Analytics, you can find this under your reports in acquisition, traffic acquisition. So you can screenshot this. It's under reports. You just click on the report icon, acquisition, traffic acquisition, and you look under session campaigns, and it'll show you, you'll see it appear because you've named it Wheeler Digital, and it will show you users, sessions, engaged sessions, average time spent, engaged sessions per users, events per session, engagement rate, event count. All that information will appear in your report. So that's how you use UTM codes. Sounds great. We should always use them, right? Well, it is a bit of a Pandora's box. UTM codes, you have to use them, but you have to kind of take them with a grain of salt. Because your UTM codes and the reports that show in your Google Analytics are never going to match up with the monthly reports that you get from Wheeler or whomever you do your digital campaigns with. And the reason for that is because ad exchanges do not record clicks the same way that Google Analytics record click with UTM codes. And the problem is that many apps, mobile apps, strip out UTM codes when passing traffic to websites. So what happens then is that Google Analytics will list mobile traffic as direct rather than referral. So instead of it getting listed in Google Analytics under that Wheeler Digital that I just showed you, it'll get listed under direct. So it's not always going to match up. Also, some browsers prevent Google Analytics from collecting data. A user might land on the website and leave before the Google Analytics tracking code deploys. So this can get confusing, no doubt about it. There's a lot of moving parts with Google Analytics 4. So we do have a guide that we've put together for you, and it is available to you at no cost. And if that is something that you're interested in, you can let us know, and we would be happy to provide you that. It has all of the information that we've covered today and a lot more, including the UTM codes that we've covered, plus all of the report information. So that's something you can let us know if you're interested in, and we can get that to you. The other thing is, if you are not ready for July 1st and for Google Analytics 4 and don't have it installed and would like some help with that, we can get you ready for that. We can install Google Analytics 4 on your website and make sure that it is working correctly and that all the pages are being crawled correctly and indexing and submitted to Google. We'll also integrate up to 5 conversions to track. That could be things like tracking a contact us form, clicking on a phone number, email, address, whatever conversions you would like to track on your website. We can do that for a one-time investment of $750. If you have an e-commerce site, we can put together a custom quote for you that is a little bit more involved if you have an e-commerce site. So if that's something you're interested in, you can let us know, and we would be happy to do that for you. And that is our Google Analytics 4 and UTM codes webinar.